My name's Martin McKenzie. I'm Senior Business Advisor here at the Business Centre. This is a fusion event, and we want one of these fusion events every month, so there'll be a different topic every month. We try and keep them appropriate for what businesses tell us they need. We run them on cybersecurity, we've run things on social media, anything that's appropriate for the time. This time we thought we'd cover off on virtual assistants. There seems to be a lot of questions about what they are. It's a dark and mysterious world. I have experience of it myself working in the private sector. It's a completely different story from what it was, say, 10 years ago to what it is now. All these events are made possible and are free on behalf of Business Connect, who is one of the funding bodies, so Service New South Wales, etc., that process you went through, and that allows us to provide these information sessions for free. So over on this side, but before I do that, I should actually do acknowledgement to country. A few things about the area that we're in actually. The place name here is Mullumbimba, so we're right near the harbour. It's something that they actually used to call the really large floating dock that was in the harbour. No one probably knew it was the place name of Newcastle at the time in the Wabikal. We're on the Wabikal Warramite land. I normally start with Allah. Allah is the Wabikal version for hi, so the acknowledgement for traditional owners and generations going forward, past, present and emerging for the ancestors. We'll get started, I think. So on this side of me, I've got our special guest and a special guest. We've got some industry experts from here in the world of virtual assistants. So we've got Adrienne and Jane, and I'll let you introduce yourselves as to what you do. And they're from Newcastle Virtual Assistants. Now, Gold Star actually, first of all, for actually two individuals, two different enterprises coming together, actually, which is nice to see that sort of collaboration as well. I'll start with you though, you're closest, and actually maybe introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yep.
So my name's Adrienne, for those of you I haven't met. I've worked as a virtual assistant here in the region for 8 years this year in my own business, organised by Adrienne, that offers business admin and event management services to businesses all around the country. And 6 years ago, I met Jane, and 5 years ago on Monday, we established the Newcastle VA company, which is a community of virtual assistants. We have over 225 members in our community. We provide them with support, resources, events, mentoring, and then also partner with local businesses like Steph to find them a virtual assistant if and when they need one for their business.
Thanks, Adrienne. Your turn, Jane.
My turn. Hi, I'm Jane. I have been running a small virtual assistant business called the Jane Edit since 2016. I specialise in digital marketing and business administration for creative businesses mainly. So that could be online in e-commerce, or it could be creative businesses that have bricks and mortar locations. So that's pretty much what I do in my business of the Jane Edit. I'm also the co-founder with Adrienne of the Newcastle Virtual Assistants, which we established 5 years ago. We found each other online basically and thought surely there are more virtual assistants in Newcastle, and so far we've collected over 200. So, and they're the ladies or the VAs that we support, and then hopefully you can have a VA from us.
And on the far side, we've got Stephanie Hudson now in the typical Newcastle way. It happens that Stephanie and I had actually met before and worked together when we were sort of writing grants in the same space. I would take some, the ones I didn't want to do, I'd throw to Stephanie. The ones that Stephanie didn't want to do, she'd throw back to me. And so it ended up that she actually is someone who's using VA services, so I thought it would be good to get her point of view on what that's like as well.
Stephanie Hudson. So from then, I'm actually now a director of ProTalk with my husband as an engineering and project management company, so not grant writing. And you know, on the journey of business, we found that what was my husband's gig to start off with really got big really quickly, and you know, I chose to put my freelance writing to the side and really focus on our business. As you know, when everything happens, it all happens at once. So we jumped into that. And while we've had the business for about 10 years, this is our 10th year since registering it, it's probably been in the last 4 to 5 that we've experienced that growth. And the lovely ladies here have asked me to come along today because I've, been knocking on their door a fair bit. Being Newcastle, I did know Adrienne earlier in the piece from that grant writing stage in the community services sector. And as the first VA, I guess, that I knew of with Adrienne, and watching her career certainly with Jane, and taking this idea and building it into a larger community that other businesses could benefit from, was not only admiring but certainly in my wheelhouse of what I needed at that point in time. So I have now engaged 4 VAs over probably a 2-year period, I would say. So I'm just here today, I guess, to give a business owner's perspective of how that's gone.
Great, thank you, Steph. I have questions for you too, right? And if you don't answer enough questions, I'm going to make Adrienne shush, and I'm going to make you answer some too, right? So I'll be keeping a tally. So
one for one.
For the audience and for the people who'll be watching this later on, give us a rough description of exactly what a VA service is.
That's a great question. Straight into the deep end. So a virtual assistant is basically somebody that's self-employed. We're business owners and we are professionals in the area of supporting other businesses. So that's actually just a really small, in a nutshell, that's what we do. But it is actually really quite complex, which is really hard for businesses to understand what we are, because we not only can support small businesses in administration, we can also niche down to industries. So we could niche to NDIS, for example, and only be a virtual assistant that will work in kind of that medical or government NDIS area. We could only work with tradies, so maybe a virtual assistant that you contact is not somebody that's actually going to be working in your industry. Or we specialise, like I could work across the board in lots of different industries, but I specialise in digital marketing, so and specifically for creative industries. So there's a lot that goes into a virtual assistant.
So it's not just about what you would think it might be, it's just someone who might check your inbox.
No,
or check your message, phone messages.
Both, absolutely. So that's called a generalist virtual assistant. Yep. So that's somebody that can come in and support your business in...
I didn't know there were subsets, my apologies.
Yeah, there are subsets. So a generalist will come in and support your business on that kind of, not basic level, because it's certainly, the way that your business runs, whether it's virtual reception, it's email management, it's scheduling meetings, appointments, you name it. Someone can come in and literally grab those tasks from you and run with them, and it leaves you the time to actually go off and do what you need to do in your business. And then you've got your specialists or your niche down virtual assistants as well.
Yep. So I guess we're sort of, what we thought might have been a VA from years ago, we did, is completely changed now. There's not much outside any assistance you might want that they can cover off on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a few years ago, a decade ago, it could be perhaps a remote or freelance virtual secretary, for example. And that's perhaps what people thought that we did. And we did do it, and we do it. So, but we actually have added so many more skills and services to the industry, in the virtual industry, that it's even a conversation we have ourselves about what do we call ourselves, because it's a really unusual term, virtual assistant, to cover exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Now, we predicted that Jane wasn't going to say much.
Oh, sorry.
So she's already answered the first 2 questions. So we're going to ask...
Come out the gate.
Yes, she has. If I don't have to talk anymore, I've already done 2 and that's it. I'll leave the rest to Adrienne. So how do I know if there's a point in my business I actually need a VA?
Yeah.
Or is there some kind of trigger or some tipping point that I know I need a VA?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've had business owners come to me from the day they bought the domain and went, okay, I'm going to need help with this business. And I've had businesses come to me and they're 15 years in and they're drowning, or they want to step back, or they're starting a second business, they're caring for aging parents, they have some other place that they need to be and have decided that that's the point where they need some extra support. So we often get asked, like, when's the best time? I don't think there is one, but often what we see is it's when business owners are starting to drown in their business, and they're spending less time doing why they started the business and more time doing all the other hats that we wear, being the receptionist, being, you know, the travel booking person, customer service, the marketing, the accountant, and not being the person that they started the business to be, or whatever their specialty area is, or their trade.
I would just add to that, like, as a business owner, having done that, don't do that. Don't wait to that point where you feel like you're drowning and you're forced to, because of all of the reasons, no one else is going to know how to do this. I'm just going to have to teach someone anyway. How much is it going to cost me? I don't know if I can afford it.
There was a question I was going to ask you, Steph. So personally, what was your own tipping point? Well, what was your own sort of thing where I can't do it all on my own?
Yeah.
Or between Travis and I, we can't handle anymore? What was it?
Really started to not like my husband.
Yeah. Well, okay.
That was
okay, so let's skip along a bit.
Marriage counselling's down the hallway.
That'd be my oh yeah,
that's a specialist.
VA for counselling and everything. Yeah.
I love that.
I'm sorry, Steph, go ahead.
No, but seriously, when, you know, as a business owner, you live and breathe your whole business, and it does go into your, and even more so if you're working with a partner or a family member. For me, I found it difficult, and still do. I have a business coach now that I've just had a discussion with, is who's going to want to do this though, the way I do it? And so that's a real mental hurdle to get over, but it's worth getting over it, because on the other side, you get time back, you get perspective back, you get a really, you know, hopefully, and great person that becomes part of your team in a way that you want. And I think that's probably the key thing in terms of bringing someone in. And it's almost like our experience has been, they come as a nice little package. It's not like someone that you've got to train, you've got to, you know, onboard them in terms of an employee relationship. They are professional, they are organised, they are there and ready to work from the first minute that they're billing to you. So that was probably the biggest perspective shift for me. And you know, when I reached out to Adrienne, I didn't know what I needed. I wasn't, you know, I need some help doing this, and I need some website stuff over here, and I don't really want to do this anymore. So we did go down a generalist approach, and I think sometimes it's a bit of trial and error. In our case, they worked out fantastic, and they ended up becoming a part-time employee for us. But we're now sort of evolving now. They're going on maternity leave, and I've seen our business has grown, and by investing in that assistant, I can see a clear value-added need that we've invested in a full-time executive assistant. So that role has built out to, you know, effectively support both of us. But we still have a travel VA, we still have a HR VA, we have a social media VA on which we're onto our second, and I think that's probably something to highlight as well. You know, it's an evolution. Your business is going to change. You're going to change yourself within your business. So I think the great thing about having the support of these two ladies is that very open in communication to be able to have that discussion about how it's working and you know, what else is out there. Do I need to have a look at that? So. Big advocate.
Good segue though for another question that often comes up. If I've never engaged the VA before, what is the engagement? Is it contractual? Do I have to employ them? Is there a set term? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the way that we normally explain it is a VA is a really sweet spot between you drowning and doing it yourself, or having to be ready to put an ad up on Seek and have all the HR structure and payroll and all the policies and procedures and employment contracts to have your business ready to employ potentially your first employee. So how we explain what a VA is, as Jane mentioned, they're an individual business owner. They're not an employee of your business, and that's the nature of that relationship. But it's that sweet spot between having to do it all yourself. They're engaged as an individual contractor. They invoice you. They have all their own insurances, and you know, business owner, they bring all their own hardware, software. Like Steph said, they're ready to go, like a tradesperson turning up to help renovate the house. They're ready to go. They are a business owner in their own right, and then they are treated as such. So there's no superannuation, there's no other overheads. Often what they're charging you, whether that's on a project basis, an hourly rate, or some sort of retainer, that is the cost. There are no other costs involved. That is the sort of like a consulting rate.
Yeah.
So we don't have to sign in blood anywhere.
No
firstborn.
No,
You were going to say.
Yeah. No, not at all.
This wasn't pre-organised.
That's a good point, because sometimes I think if we go back to the employee model, it's a bit of a sticky conversation sometime about how many of their hours they're going to have or not. It's very open with a VA because you know that they're working for other businesses.
Yep.
You know, so it's a very much an open dialogue around, okay, well, let's try 5 hours a week, maybe for a month, and then maybe that builds to 10, or maybe you start off at 20 and then you realise that they've done all the front end work and now it's really just at maintaining.
Yep.
So I guess, again, you don't have to feel like you're locked into something. These VAs are coming in knowing very much it's a flexible arrangement. It does work two ways. So they are working for other clients as well. My husband really struggles with that because he just wants what he wants when he wants it. So I'll be upfront about that. You've got to understand that they aren't your employee. They aren't a dedicated subcontractor just to you. So you do have to fit. And then there's other models as well. You might have them on a retainer, and then therefore you get, I guess, priority because they've allocated hours to be able to do your work. But then it's also about planning too. So you're paying for this resource, so you need to make sure that you're organised in, you've got stuff to give them to go on with. They're not going to bill you for the work they're not doing, but you've got someone there ready to help you. I think as a business owner, sometimes that's really hard too, is stepping back and going, okay, what can I give to someone else here? And usually you don't have to go into too much detail because, as I said, they're experienced, especially if you're getting someone specialised. It might be HR, if that's you just don't want to deal with that. They're going to be far more skilled in that area than you are. So it's worth thinking about.
Trust, right? So trust and confidentiality and those sort of things. People with trade secrets or people with actual real IP. What happens with that? What happens with commercial and confidence type issues? For people in business here, that's really important thing.
Are you asking?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm asking the VAs on this one. Jane, you've been quiet all of a sudden. Let's get back to you. Yeah.
Okay. That's probably the most important thing that virtual assistants, focus on basically. So the first thing would be, building that trust with your virtual assistant. We are small business owners as well, so we understand, the things that happen in your business, and we have access to things like credit cards and financial information, your addresses, your personal emails that come through if we're looking after your inbox. So I think first and foremost, I think virtual assistants really do have a high level of integrity, and we kind of do take that very seriously. Having said that, I've signed NDAs before with clients. I've also implemented things in my business such as encryption software. I use vaults to hold all of the credit card and personal password information, so that's software vaults that we all use that are encrypted. It's just best practice for a virtual assistant to use things like that. We use secure communication software, so we could be using Slack or something like that as opposed to just like messages or Messenger on Facebook. So we do have a lot of things in place where we do take your security and trust and things like that really seriously.
Yep. Well, the next question is actually about communication.
Right.
So if I just got a VA for the first time, what are the forms of communication? Are there rules? Are they different between the owner and the VA each time? Is it just by landline, old school, two cans tied together with a string?
Yeah.
Well, it was back in the day.
Is it emails? Is it phone calls? Is it just how are the instructions passed along and what happens?
It's a great question. So what I would do if I was onboarding a new client would be to ask what you already use. So what do you use in your business? What software, what systems do you use? How do you communicate with your clients, your patients, your customers? And then I would say perhaps you need to implement a system if you haven't got one already. And then a good VA is going to literally either implement your own system and make it work for them, because after all, we're here to support you. And so we will make that work. And we might use 10 different communication, tools and software across all of our different clients, but that's just we're fairly organised so that we can do that sort of thing.
Yep.
Otherwise, we will talk to you about using things like Slack or Voxer or text, email, phone, Zoom, Loom.
I think she's
Don't
making some of
worry if you don't know
Do
any
these
of
all
those
exist?
terms.
Really? Are you sure?
Absolutely.
I think one thing that's important, and something Jane and I talk about a lot, is that difference between treating a VA as if they are an employee as opposed to a small business owner in their own right. I think one of the only key areas where it's a very similar process is the onboarding component. So I'm very much like, they're not an employee, we both all need to remember that, but the main area where the process is the same is the onboarding and establishing those communication channels, how we're going to work together, what that's going to look like, what are your expectations of my response time, when do you need me to be online for you, those sorts of...
But most VAs are very good at walking you through that. So don't feel like you've got to have this process sort of set out to onboard them. In fact, most cases you're going to be onboarded with them. So
That's right.
you know, you're a client of theirs, so they're going to step you through a process that they need to be able to work for you effectively.
Yep. Private sector business I was in a few years ago, pre-COVID, was using a lot of offshore VAs.
Yep.
You're here in front of me, so you're obviously onshore.
Yep.
What's the difference? What are the benefits? Give me the pros and cons for both.
Yep. I think this is something, again, if anyone's ever heard us talk before, it's something we're very passionate about. There's a lot of conversation in our industry about seeing offshore virtual assistants as competitors for us and people that are potentially going to take our jobs. We're very big believers that there's space for onshore and offshore virtual assistants. It's just about finding the right fit and where they will benefit your business. So for example, we had a business approach us probably 3 years ago now who had a soap business, thousands and thousands of products that all needed to get uploaded into a Shopify website. Now that obviously if they're paying us at our rate versus an offshore virtual assistant who would have done a great job at that, our solution to them was it's more beneficial for you as the business owner to take that work offshore. You're going to get a great outcome and it's going to be the most cost effective solution. Now if a business owner came to us tomorrow and said, I run electrical trade business and I need someone to take job requests over the phone, absolutely would not recommend that to go offshore. It's something that needs to be done onshore to understand locations and geographies in our country and how we do business here and different rules and regulations. So I think there's definitely a time for both. It's just about, as part of the process we go through with business owners who are looking for a VA, is working out what the pain points are, what support they need, and what is the best solution. We would never say us if really that's ripping them off. It's just about what they need right now, what's the best way. I've got 2 different clients that have offshore VAs that I oversee their work as part of my role as their onshore VA and looking after the business management. It can work amazingly, but it's just about finding the right fit and the right skill set for what you need.
Also things like Fiverr, Airtasker, do you find competition from those parts as well?
Not really,
No, look at you being all high and mighty. Great.
But it's a different service.
We use those as well. Inside our own businesses.
So it's more about optimisation where you see an opportunity like that can be used.
Definitely. But especially for my clients, like that are I'm more of a generalist virtual assistant, so inbox management, travel, managing inboxes and things like that. It's the businesses owners that I've seen that have come to me that have used it offshore. It's just been a little bit clunky, but we've used them in other parts of our business, maybe social media scheduling or data entry, those sorts of things. So it's not. I definitely don't see it as a competition. As Jane said, we've used those in our own businesses and encourage clients to do that if that's the best outcome.
So I'm in business. I've decided, right, I'm going to get a VA. I've decided I've heard something. I went to a fusion event or something, some guy banging on about VAs. How do I onboard or find a VA? What questions do I ask? How do I go about engaging a VA then?
Oh, okay, right. I was going to throw this one over to you.
That's easy. So obviously, if you have your own social media, following your own community that you can tap into, great. It would be silly of me not to mention that is a service that Jane and I offer, which is what Steph has used 3 or 4 times. That's what we call our matchmaking service, where we basically sit with you for an hour, pull out all of that information about what you need, what you're struggling with, what your pain points are, and then present you with 2 to 3 of the VAs within our community. Normally we go local first because we just love supporting our local members, but we have extensive national networks. In one of Steph's scenarios, the right person was not within our community, so we went abroad and then introduced the business owner to those members and allow them to forge that relationship.
And
so that's...
Can I just say, I wouldn't recommend, for me personally, I couldn't think of anything worse than just literally opening up Google and going virtual assistant. The engagement fee to engage these girls to be able to find the right fit for you is such an integral investment, I think, in terms of the matchmaking, because you get an hour to sit aside to really talk through all the nuances. I think if, within your own business, there's things that aren't particularly written down or you haven't really thought about until you're having this conversation. And I think that's really gold that you get that out first, and then to be able to go to a network of people that are ready and willing and know that they have hours to increase and available to give to a new client. It just, if you care at all about efficiency and productivity, I think that's one of the best ways to go.
And to your question before, it is often that businesses come to us when they're already at that drowning point. And we've had a business owner come and say, I put something on my LinkedIn, 40 people responded, now I'm even more time poor because I've got to get back to these 40 people. I should have just paid you, the small fee. On average, we find it saves business owners between sort of 8 and 10 hours of that searching, working out what they want, maybe getting it wrong. Maybe
well, I was going to ask that. What is the business case, right? So, what's my return on investment for the hours that I bank and get the VA? Where am I actually getting the value? Where's the benefit?
Yeah. So if you're working in a service-based industry, you're charging. So you're an accountant. You're charging yourself out at $150 an hour, or you're going to sit on LinkedIn and trawl through 40 profiles of virtual assistants that could take you 8 hours, 10 hours. Where is your value best placed in your business? Where can you be adding the most value to your customers? And outsource the bits that you don't have time for, they're not in your skill set, or they're not of interest to you. They're not why you started your own business. So that's normally the example that we use is because, the value that you can be bringing into your business by doing the stuff that's in your sweet spot and allowing other people to do theirs.
I think that's a good way to start is to, I think sometimes as businesses, certainly in those early stages, a lot of people think their time is free. When I won't pay a tradie to do it. I'll look it up on YouTube and I'll do it myself. And then you end up spending, the whole weekend trying to do this one task.
But no idea what that's like. No idea at all.
I think if you value your time and you can put a dollar value on that, and then you look at the fee, but not just the fee, what's involved in being able to find the right person for you, then you look at that list as a to-do list, as something that you're going to do. You will quickly feel the overwhelm in terms of being able, what goes into it and what you need to do. In addition, it's usually 3 that you guys would present.
2 to 3.
2 to 3, depending. So it's not just one person. You're sort of getting an array of people that you already know, as I said before, willing and able, ready to go, and are interested, and have probably already started looking at your business and doing some research about it.
And we've already spoken to them, and we've already decided that actually they're a good match for your business. So we don't match someone that's not willing or able to do what you need us to do.
Or the right cultural fit for your business, which is a big part of what we talk with business owners about. You can teach someone to use Slack or Trello or Xero, Myob, your platforms. You can't teach the right fit, especially when they're in that real personal assistant. Like you said, the information that we're privy to, the work that we do for business owners.
I'll scratch out this one on war stories.
But it's true. I've helped clients relocate. I've sold cars for them. I found, specialist doctors for their children. That's all part of my role as their personal VA. So you want to, that cultural fit. They can teach me, their flight preferences. They can't teach me that fit, that chemistry between the
Absolutely.
VA
I
and
would
a
definitely
business
say they've
owner.
taught me a lot more than I've been able to offer them.
Yeah.
Well, certainly me and the team as well. They've brought in new skills, and even for you know, the VAs that have left, you know, that we've outgrown, they've still built something of value. I'm still way further down the road than I would have been had I not engaged them in the first place. So,
Sure.
Just to confirm that these guys aren't paying you to say anything
No.
yeah, sorry.
positive.
No, I'm not.
But I do have a question for you though.
Okay.
I mean, you said you started hating your husband, which is sort of,
Don't tell
we
me.
did go there. But when you sort of said, okay, so I need some help,
Yeah.
was there anything that kind of made you, any trepidation?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then why a VA? Why not go and actually look for
Well-
some other temporary,
Well,
solution?
I think if you look at the employee, I guess the other alternative would be, so you're in a situation where you're not quite sure how much of a resource that you need, and you're not really willing to commit to a full-time resource. So, as an alternative, you be in the casual employee space. When I looked at that model and I thought about what I'd have to sort of bring in and the recruitment around that, it just really didn't feel like it was the right fit. What I liked about a VA was that, as I said before, they come trained and ready to go. They come vetted, if you like, through a system like Newcastle VAs, but also it was a turn-on, turn-off resource. So our company runs on a billable hour structure. So yeah, at the point of generalist assistance, I knew it was going to be an overhead in terms of it wasn't directly related to any billable hour. But the hours that I got back and the fact that somebody else could just be monitoring the inbox, or I could not physically be in the office and somebody else could be managing what's coming through, that, the value of that far outweighed the engagement. But also, as I said, they bring more skills into, so there'll be things that you won't even have seen because you've been so in the weeds that you haven't been able to have the perspective to sort of sit back and they can see efficiencies, and they're also much quicker at doing things, I find, because I'm a perfectionist about it, and so it's
a little bit more
soon.
like I'm just pushing a bit on that. Did you feel it was possibly a gamble, a roll of the dice to try it, or?
I looked at it as a commitment, like an investment. It's like, okay, well, let's commit to this for, 3 months and see what the value is at. And within, the first 2 weeks, I was like, she can never leave. So that's basically how we've evolved into, 4 now. So now I look at everything in terms of who can do this, how much is it going to cost me, who can do this, and how much am I going to save? So that's really sort of a measurement that, myself and my husband look at in terms of what we're getting back from that investment. But absolutely normal to have trepidation about bringing a completely external person into your business. But I guess it is a bit of a leap of faith in the sense that these are professionals. It's someone that you bring in who is skilled, and their whole existence is to help you.
I think there's also all the non-tangible costs that go along. Like we were chatting with a psychologist in WA who came to us looking for support to find them a VA, and she said I've been doing this for 14 years, all my systems are clunky and broken. I said, so what does that look like in terms of the time you'll get back? And like straight away her shoulders dropped. She's like, I can go back to gardening, I can go and visit my mum a week, I can hang out with my kids again, things like that. So it's like all those things that you can't put a price on, I think, in terms of the areas of savings for business owners, because it's not easy doing it all on your own.
That's another good segue. Now, this hasn't been
segue.
rehearsed at all because, Steph's raising things, because I have to rub out that question, rub out that question. But because you guys are unique, so Jane, Adrienne, you came together, you formed up this sort of this community, I guess you'd call it, of VAs. Tell us why you would do such a thing. Is it like herding budgies? What is it?
Why would we do such a thing?
Why did you do it?
With virtual assistants
Yeah.
that aren't, perhaps introverts, to be honest. We like to work from home. We don't particularly want to go into, you know, the workforce or work in traditional employment. But basically, we're not introverts, and we understand that, you know, even though we work alone, you don't have to be alone. And so although it sounds a little bit strange that we have a lot of community meetings and catch-ups and workshops and professional development, it really only enhances the virtual assistants that we have in Newcastle. It gives them support, it gives them a great network. It could be that, you know, you engage a virtual assistant and they're not exactly, you know, savvy with the social media that you're thinking, oh, I might give that to them as, you know, their next task. But let me tell you, they will know 20 virtual assistants in Newcastle that are more than happy and very savvy at social media, for example. And
so to be clear, it's not an agency set up per se,
No.
okay.
So Jane and I both run our own VA businesses and have done. So whilst we are the leaders of this Newcastle VA community, we are also working VA, so we get what it's like out there. But yeah, I think for the community component, it was about, you know, we had both come from corporate office-based environments and missed that team component. So by having monthly events, quarterly masterclasses, which is like a skill development, so the next one's on LinkedIn, for example, budgeting, those sorts of things, and then our professional development conference for our members. It also means that any business that engage one of our members also sort of as a byproduct gets access to that, you know, group of VAs. Like Jane said, if there's something you might use, you know, Trello as an example in your business, and that VA might not have used that before. They've got access to this incredible group of people that can help them, and there's a lot of skill sharing and advice and guidance on client situations and what's the best system for my client or what's the best app for my client to use in this scenario.
And we absolutely missed having someone to talk to bounce an idea off, to just go, oh my goodness, this has happened with my client, what's your advice? So so that's
Peer
pretty
support.
much, absolutely, that's why we do it.
Also remember, I mean, because businesses talk to us about what they need in their business and we often suggest X, Y and Z, VA being one of them. Not so much new regulation, but certainly new guidance, strong guidance has come out from both the ATO, Fair Work Ombudsman in regards to the difference between employees and contract workers. So that's actually confusing a fair few people on what their contractors are. At least you can assume that the VA they have is obviously working for more than one person, so thereby it actually sits within those contractor rules quite safely.
Yeah, absolutely. We may have just a handful of clients, or you know, up to 20 clients that we're juggling throughout the month. So we fall in that beautiful sweet spot.
But any of that sort of thing, and you know, you and I have spoken about this a lot. We were talking about it earlier, where VAs, and this is something Jane and I talk a lot about, is knowing where your area is and knowing when to say that's actually a question for a bookkeeper, a solicitor, an accountant, those sorts of things, and not. And so, you know, if a client's coming to us saying, oh, should I be paying you super? It's like, go to your accountant and ask for that advice. That would always be our line, because that's not our area of expertise, and it's a technical area that you want to muck around with. So, I mean, I had a business owner come to me recently and say, I need a VA. It's going to be about 20 to 25 hours a week. And I was like, you need to talk to your accountant to make sure you're not getting into employee territory. We can find you someone, that's fine, but just making sure that's the most cost-effective solution for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we won't always say a VA just for the sake of saying it. Yeah.
Okay. I think we should take some questions if anyone has any. So these won't be prepared. They're going to be tough, I reckon, looking at the crowd out there. So
Be kind.
now, George has got a roaming mic that we can access. Does anyone have any burning questions? Make them as hard as you like, because I think they've had it pretty cruisy. So anyone ever thought about the idea of actually using a VA in their own business at all? Yes?
Yeah.
Was that a yes? Do you wish to comment further on that?
Hopefully everyone's come along tonight and they've thought about it.
Yeah.
I can ask a question.
Sure.
Thanks, Natalie.
Hello, I'm Natalie, for those that don't know. My question to the panel is, what makes an ideal VA? So if a business owner is looking out there to sort of source who that person could be, what attributes or would you be looking for particularly to suit each business? What would you sort of say is what makes an ideal characteristic?
I think, to our point before, you can teach someone a piece of technology. For me personally, I think the top skill to a good virtual assistant is being resourceful. There's nothing that grinds my gears more than when you hear clients say, I had a VA, but I'd ask them things and they go, I don't know, sorry. It's like the answer, that's not the answer. The answer is, I don't know, but give me 5 minutes, give me 30 minutes, give me 24 hours. Be resourceful. Like, our roles are there to support the business owner and to alleviate some of those things. So not only have you probably frustrated them, the thing's still on their to-do list as the business owner, where our role is about actually freeing up that time. So for me, the key skill is being resourceful, and especially for the local VA community, there's no excuse because we've got the group right there, where someone will have asked that question before, someone will have had that scenario before. So I think, just being resourceful and having that attitude to go, I don't know, but let me find out, and being curious and resourceful. That's, me.
Thanks. Back, Richie.
Yeah, hi Martin. I had some really good questions, but you trumped me on every one of them. So. But I'll get down to, and I appreciate, Stephanie, that it's an investment, okay? But in regards to scale of fees, the scale of fees, there must be a range, but also as a range package to some VAs say, well, look, for 5 hours, this hourly rate, but we do 10, it's this. How does it actually work from a fee generation?
Yeah, definitely. So I normally explain the fee structures in 3 different ways. So project fee. So for example, I do a lot of event management in my business. So they would normally be 50% upfront, 50% on completion in line with the budget or what we work out. A retainer. So a lot of the clients that I do, that kind of really traditional personal assistant. So managing their inbox, their travel, those sorts of things. We have a monthly retainer, which is an agreed set of hours. We review that every quarter to make sure it's working. And to your point, they have that option to flex it up and down, or projects that are hourly rate based. So I had a florist come to me and say, we would like to start offering chocolates with our flowers as an add-on, but we don't want to make the chocolates. We just want to partner with someone. So they said, take 5 hours at $60 an hour and research all the chocolate makers you can find in Australia. Put it in a spreadsheet. I did it. That was 3 years ago. I've never spoken to them again because that was just the piece of work that they needed. So that was more of a sort of hourly rate, pay as you go type thing. Now, obviously, the more specialised skill, like any occupation, is going to charge, you're going to get higher. But I think also because they're a contractor, our rates obviously include everything: tax, super, software, hardware, insurance, all the things. So yeah, I think it's something, again, we talk about a lot. There's not a huge amount of research or data in Australia, but anecdotally, I would say most VAs, especially within our region, would be charging between $50 to $70 an hour based on the things that you're needing them to do, the skill set they have, how technical it is, how generalist it is, and then they'd be basing retainers or packages on that sort of framework. And when you work back, that really is often based on sort of, if you're hiring an employee, your sort of general award wages, and then the additional cost to get that up to a consulting rate.
From each of you, and we've probably come to the end of our session, just a final sort of tip, takeaway from both the service givers and the person who actually receives it. What's the last final tip or bit of advice?
For me, I think I definitely understand the friction in letting go of parts of your business. I have a team of virtual assistants that work in my business now, and it took me a really long time to let go. I didn't know if it could be done the way I liked it, and trust and letting go and all of that, but I think it was the right thing to do because it definitely freed up a lot of my time, and now I get to do the bits that I really love in my business, and the VAs that work in my team are doing the things that they're really great at. But I think it's very normal to feel some sort of tentative feelings towards letting go, but it's definitely worth it.
Do the VAs have VAs?
I don't know what they do outside of that is their business.
I certainly have an assistant VA.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it is, it's their business, and,
Yep.
and I think, yeah, so be open to that too. I mean, they need support as well. So, and they're marketing their business, so they might bring in a VA marketer as well. So
That's right.
that makes complete sense to me as a
Like some
business owner.
self-sustaining.
It is.
Yep. Little
Full circle.
ecosystem.
Final
Yeah.
tip, final tip, bit of
Final
advice.
tip, I know that the virtual assistant industry and the space sounds really confusing and complex, but honestly, we are just self-employed professionals that are here to support you. So as soon as you take that step, we will guide you through it. It's not that scary.
Yep. What do you think from a user perspective?
I would say don't wait
Mm-hmm.
till your hair's on
you.
fire.
Sleepless nights.
Yes, I'd say work out your top 3 pain points, work out your budget, go for banked hours, and engage someone to find you a shortlist. That's what I'd say. If I would do those 3 things.
Right. Guys, thanks for your time. Stephanie, thanks for coming along. Good to see you again.
Yes.
Jane, Adrienne, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thanks to the audience for coming on also and hearing about VAs. We thought it might be an interesting thing to hear about in the world of VAs and holograms and things like that, which are replacing people. There are still, bone-filled bags of flesh that can do this work for us and still be personal about it.
Yeah.
Just a reminder that the sessions that we provide are all sponsored by, so this is the ad part by Business Connect, to give us sponsorships to run these information sessions. So stick around, have a chat, ask these guys some questions, have a beverage, and hopefully we'll see you guys using VAs in the future.